I'm Susie Hess.
And I'm Yehuda Price. This is Our Stories Matter.
This entire episode discusses multiple forms of trauma, including graphic descriptions of intergenerational trauma, sexual trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, and carceral trauma. If activated, TILA recommends to incorporate healing practices such as move, walk, journal, run, push against a wall, connect with people who are supportive and empathetic, and remember to breathe. If at any time you need to take a break, and you can always return later. So I am super excited to meet you. You have, Rianne, such a beautiful, kind voice.
Thank you so much. I have to know that my inner core is able to resonate through a phone call. That means so much to me because I've been incarcerated for the past 12 years and I'm a mother. And many times my voice and my tone, that's all I've had to utilize as a tool to be a parent from where I am, or as a tool to connect with other people, to socialize, to start relationships, to be able to help my family, is just my voice. So I appreciate that my true heart, my intentions, my light is able to be seen through just the vibration in my voice. That means a lot.
Oh my gosh, so much. But yeah, I can definitely hear just the beauty through your voice. So I'm so looking forward just to getting to know you. I mean, so much, one for the podcast, but just two, yeah, I could just feel the connection with you. So I'm looking forward to connecting more through the hour.
Thank you. I'm also excited as well. I've been very nervous. I think I've messaged Yehuda a million times. I have a question. And I think that a lot of the nerves, I know that we're going to be speaking about trauma and healing today. And I know that a lot of my apprehension comes from, this is the first time that I'm going to tell my story outside of the confidence of just one other person, or outside of the protection of a therapist, and outside of a group setting where we have group norms. In a self-help group, there's group norms that we don't share. We don't share the message, not the messenger, right? So we don't tell other people's business in those group settings because we want to hold a safe space for each other. So this is my first time telling my story on a broader spectrum, on a broader scale, a bigger scale. And, I have some truths that I haven't even been able to tell my mother, not because I'm ashamed of them any longer, but because I imagine myself being a mother. And if I had a daughter, her coming to me, telling me the things that she experienced while I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do as her mother, I imagine how heartbreaking that could feel for me. So that's why a lot of the things that I've experienced, I don't share with my mother out of empathy for how she might be hard on herself as a result of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you, being willing to call in live from the Belly of the Beast. I love our live from the Belly of the Beast exclusives.
Yes.
I know the power of having a cell phone while in prison, being able to reach out and contact and share those truths. Because a lot of times when we're incarcerated, you kind of keep those truths bottled in, or you're only able to express it to other people incarcerated. And that's not really the full way of somebody who really truly wants to express themselves, because people that are locked up are not the only people in the world, right? They're people, you kind of want that diversity of experiences, and you kind of don't get that when everybody's, locked up. You definitely have diversity of different particular traumas people contend with, but it's still not the same as that full breadth of experience of people in the free world or on the streets, as we would say, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And another thing, it's like not having the ability to connect outside of just my immediate environment. It kind of it took me for some time, it took away from me the idea of going home, the reality of who I am, that I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend. Every day I wake up with what's directly in front of me. So being able to have a cell phone and connect on a broader scale keeps me in touch with my goals and where I'm trying to go.
No, I totally hear that, right? I remember when I was in prison, right? And I'm like, I was doing a whole bunch of different self-help groups and all that. And they're like, well, I had certain people like, well, you're doing the self-help groups. Why do you have a phone? Isn't it breaking the rules? I'm like, you don't ask a person who's incarcerated, taking away all the freedom from them if they have an opportunity to utilize a tool that can better them, right? Obviously, people can exploit it, but imagine if you have the right mind frame and you're looking for growth, emotional, psychological wellness, right? I mean, you're going to use that opportunity, and it's a little piece of freedom. So every time you go into your cell, like you're able to escape in a certain sense from your immediate confinement, kind of get a better picture of the world, and it actually aids in your healing, right?
Absolutely.
And Yehuda, I know you know what I'm going to say. I mean, thank God for your contraband phone, because that's how you found USC and that's how we connected.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I found my wife and ended up having a kid, right? So all that comes from the power of the phone. So we definitely understand that. And so just so everybody knows, I was introduced to Rianne through my homie Keon, who we had interviewed here previously. And he told me, he's like, she got a story to tell, right? And I think it was actually pertinent. That's why I was really open. I was so open to it, because I feel like we get the perspective from the men's perspective of being incarcerated, right? Which is important. It's important perspective, of course, but we're missing so much if we're not hearing it from the woman's perspective of how a woman's dealing with incarceration, and what is the situation of that may have led her there, like the different, not necessarily talking about the crime itself, but just the different factors in
the upbringing, the positive factors. Yes. Exactly.
Yes. And the experience inside, right? Like you said, you're a mother and all that. So, so I don't want to, get in there, just, steal any of your thunder by you explaining it. And,
you could never steal my thunder. I am the thunder.
That's right.
That quote is going in.
Okay, that's right.
I'm just going to get into some questions. And again, they're questions, but feel free to roam free. You are that thunder. So I'm not going to try to contain you, right? You can't contain thunder, right?
You cannot.
So I'm just going to listen to the thunder, right? And in awe, like thunder does. So, we'll open up with this, the basic question, talking about your story. And if you could tell us, can you describe how truth has played a pivotal role in your healing? And, tell us your story. Tell us, however you want to answer off, we're along for the ride.
Okay, absolutely. So how has truth played a pivotal role in my healing? And if I were to answer that, the simple answer is, through the truth, I found freedom, yet I'm still incarcerated, right? I grew up in a way that I grew up in environments that were abusive. My mother was an addict. She was in and out of prison, mental institutions. She wasn't present. My brother and I ended up going into foster care. We were in so many foster homes that I don't remember the names, but in each and every foster home, I remember the abuse that I experienced. I can't tell you I can't name each of my abusers. There's a couple that stuck out because that abuse from them lasted longer. And I was 2 years old when I think I was about 3 when we got put into the system, but I was 2 years old the first time I was molested. My mother, I believe at that time she was using. I was upstairs. We had a roommate and she had 2 sons, and they had me behind the dresser, fondling my private. My brother came into the room. I didn't know anything was wrong with what was happening to me. This was the first time that this had happened to me. And my brother came in the room, and he was 6 years older than I, but from the look on his face, I knew something bad had happened. My brother picked me up. He took me downstairs to my mother and proceeded to tell her what happened. And that's when my mother took me out of my brother's arms. She took a belt and she beat him all the way up the stairs and said, "I told you not to come downstairs for shit." In that moment, I realized that I could be the reason why my brother got hurt. I couldn't express things to my mom. I learned not to trust her very early on. Shortly after that incident, I was placed into foster care, my brother and I, where the abuse was, worse than that. my first night in this woman's foster home, she wanted us to call her mom. And I remember feeling at that young age, feeling uncomfortable with calling another woman mom. I felt like I was betraying her. So I wouldn't do it. But that first night I had played with my bubble gum so much that it got all over me. And this woman, she put me in this bathtub and she told me to scrub myself until I bled. And as I washed myself, and she would tell me to scrub harder in between my legs. While I was washing between my legs, she called me all types of dirty and all types of names and told me to scrub harder. And I scrubbed until I bled. I did exactly what she said. I would stay there for about a year to undergo a myriad of struggles as a child who was being abused. There was even a point where at 3 years old, I stood in the corner and I watched the sun come up. I was not allowed to lay down and sleep because I snored. So I had to stand in the corner and I would literally watch the sun come up. Then from that foster home, they realized that my brother had become very protective over me. He stopped going outside to play. Unbeknownst to me, he knew that I was being abused, but I had never said a word and the abuse never happened in front of him. He must have caught on to the change in my behavior or my attitude and stuff like that. From there, they separated my brother and I. I didn't have contact with my mother while I was in these foster homes. My mother was incarcerated. They separated my brother and I. My brother went to one foster home and they put me in a foster home about 5 miles from him. Well, this next foster home I was in, I was a little girl. I wasn't even in kindergarten yet. And she had an 18-year-old son, and her son said that he was my boyfriend. And I was about 4.5 years old, that he was my boyfriend and he would molest me. And when he was done, he would kiss me in my mouth and tell me that he loved me. And I thought I was loved. As a little girl, I believed that this person loved me. There was even an incident where there was this little boy. He was my best friend in this foster home. I'll never forget him. To this day, I pray for him. His name was Jeremy. And Jeremy and I were forced to stay outside. We couldn't come in the house and play. We couldn't come in the house. We had to stay outside all day. And we had to poop. We both had to poop this particular day. And we pooped in a bucket. There was a bucket outside. We pooped in this bucket. And there were the older kids there. They were about 16 and 17. And mind you, Jeremy's about 5 and I'm 4.5. And they forced us to eat our own feces and, called us all types of disgusting and different types of names. So eventually from that foster home, my brother was able to convince social workers to move me into his foster home, the foster home that he was in. When I was moved with my brother, I was very happy. But I was molested by the foster mother's husband. I started kindergarten and the janitor at my kindergarten school was molesting me. And he also played with us kids in the neighborhood, So I had to go through those experiences. And I got relatively good grades as a child. I remember in kindergarten, every Friday I would take an award home for me and this kid named Jason. Every Friday in kindergarten, we took an award home. Nobody told me way to go. Nobody gave me a pat on the back. There were no hugs. I got no praises, no affirmations as a child. I felt like I felt invisible until one day. And I remember the first time I was ever seen I had ran home and I hurt my ankle and I ran to my brother crying. I was like, bruh. He's like, what's wrong? I said the little girl's name. I said, she beat me up again. She chased me home. And he said, you know what? Now this time, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to take you to her. You're going to fight her. And you're going to fight her and you're going to win, or you're going to have to fight me. So at that point, I said, I'm not fighting you. I'd take my chances on her. So he took me back to this little girl and we fought and I won this fight. And everybody praised me. For the first time ever, I was seen. For the first time ever, I was good at something. The adults praised me. The other children praised me. People were happy with me. And I found my identity in fighting. I mean, to the point where I would put a chip on my shoulder and I'd go up to the other kids and I'd tell them, it's so silly now. You won't knock this chip off my shoulder. You won't knock this chip off my shoulder. I consistently wanted to recreate that praise because that's the only way I was getting attention, is if I was being molested or as if I was fighting. They paid attention to me. And my identity developed out of that. Out of the violence that was happening to me, the violence that was happening in my early childhood environment. One thing I like to talk about is a talking point that I have when I facilitate classes is I talk about nature versus nurture. Right. And if you have, yes, I committed a crime and I came to prison and I allowed my childhood to shape my identity, right? The narrative that I told myself about what I was worth, my value, what I was good at, what was good, how to gain respect from people. That was a story that I told myself based on my early childhood environment. That story wasn't true though, right? So my nature was not to just commit crimes. I was born with a core of light in me. That's my true nature, that core of light. Those environmental experiences created this shell, this crust around that core of light. And those environmental circumstances, that's how I was nurtured, right? I was nurtured into someone who became a person to commit crimes, who thought being violent equated to respect and attention and adoration, right? I think I got off on a tangent, but did I answer the question?
Yeah, I mean, you answered. You gave us a lot, right? You gave us a lot,
Yeah.
and it gave us a lot of insight into what you've experienced growing up, and it landed. Just to clarify, so how long have you been locked up for?
12 years. I've been incarcerated for 12 years now.
And how long were you sentenced to?
I was given a 7 to life sentence.
Okay.
Yes.
You gave such deep insight that usually takes, some people take multiple decades to even come to that sort of insight that you're giving. So the wisdom you have through your experience and being able to explain that trauma to us, to describe it in the way you describe it and understand how it's connected to your actions later in life and you being incarcerated. At what point when you were incarcerated, did you turn the dynamic of you know what, this happened to me and this is how I could change? And how was that connected to that truth?
Yes. Okay, so it was about 6 years ago. I had, even after my incarceration, I still had all of these issues that weren't addressed. I still had all of these secrets and all of these shames. Shame for me was an emotional driver that really just shut me down from any type of healing because I didn't want to confront the reality of who I had become. So about 6 years ago, I had always gotten into self-help groups because for the sole purposes of I was told that this looks good getting into self-help groups. And what I didn't realize at the time was each of those self-help groups was planting a seed. They were just giving me a tool to use, but I really hadn't broken down the walls to be able to pick up those tools. But the tools were basically there. The seeds were basically planted, right? It wasn't until 6 years ago when I ended up stepping up. I think Yehuda and I had this conversation about accountability and being responsibility. See, I didn't want to show people that I was capable of doing more because then they would expect more from me. So it was my theory. I'm not showing up on time to class because they're going to expect me to show up on time every day. They're going to know I'm capable of that, right? So at some point I said to myself, I really want to go forward with full change. I wasn't happy with being stuck in my shame. It was the worst. Being stuck in shame is the worst type of prison that I've ever have experienced in my life. So I started stepping up and facilitating classes. And in facilitating those classes, I opened up about my true issues, my true problems, about what was really going on inside of me. And now I was putting myself in a position where I was being vulnerable. Both, I was forcing myself to be accountable. So now people are looking at me. You're teaching these classes, Rianne. Now you have to walk this walk, right? So it was so hard for me being in prison all of this time and not having my children to look up to me, not having that contact with my children, because I really didn't have anybody to do it for, because just doing it for Rianne at that time, it wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. I didn't mean enough to me to just do it for me. So I think deep down inside, I knew that I needed people to cheer me on because I didn't believe in myself enough. And I put myself in those situations where people cheered me on. I started socializing in those circles where we were all seeking to vibrate on a higher vibration, and they began to cheer me on. And the more people cheered me on and the more I got my GED. I came to prison with a 4th grade education. I got my GED. Boom, my self-efficacy shot through the roof. I enrolled in college. I finished a class. And it's like each class, each milestone, each way to go, that that little girl in me was craving that positive attention, that positive reinforcement. And I found it in prison. So I ended up being able to face the fact of who I had been, who I had become. I had to tell the truth about what I had gone through, what I had experienced. I had to stop keeping it a secret. Over time, I began to detach my identity from what happened to me. I stopped looking at myself as my illness. One thing that I noticed in groups and classes here, when the volunteer asks the person who comes in to facilitate from outside, they ask us to tell them a little bit about ourselves. And I watched women as they would raise their hand and say, hi, my name is such and such, and I'm a lifer, or I got 18 years, I robbed somebody, I this, I that. These women sat here and named all their illnesses. I identified with my illness so much that I couldn't separate myself and find out who I truly was, because I was naming myself as my illness, right? So once I realized that I am not my illness, yes, I was abused, but I'm not abused, right? Yes, those things did happen to me, but that's not who I am. So for me, that's what it boiled down to. I had to get to that point, and it started happening for me about 6 years ago when I started really making myself accountable and seeking that positive reinforcement and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh. Number one, you are just, I mean, it's like poetic justice listening to you. And storytelling, our hope of doing this podcast is really how you just described everything is, stories matter, and stories can be liberating, and the truth can set us free. And just like you were saying, I'm incarcerated, but I'm free.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it's incredible to be able to find that, because like Yehuda was saying, it could take people years and years if they ever arrive to their truth.
Yes.
And, really identifying with your thunder, versus what we've all, because we're not the worst mistake we've ever made.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you, Yehuda had mentioned to me that you have an African-American mother and a white father. And I'm wondering if you can talk about how colorism has affected you, like throughout your life.
Oh, yes, definitely. So colorism. Okay. So my mother is Afro-Caribbean and my father is French-Canadian. And my mother has such beautiful dark skin. And as a little girl, my father wasn't around, so I didn't know that side of my family. As a little girl, when I look at my mother, I'm not looking at my mother as if I'm different from my mother. My skin tone is different. I have a much lighter skin tone. But as a child, I'm not making that connection. I see dark skin and I know this is my mother, this is my family, right? So when I was put into these foster homes and I was put into foster homes and these people had the skin of my mother, I saw family. I drew near to these people, but I was pushed away. I've been called things like, I'm told I'm not Black, told that I'm white, even down to the way that I speak. I remember being in juvenile hall one time and I said something came out of my mouth and I didn't enunciate right. And the principal stopped me. He said, listen, he sat me down. He had a conversation with me about proper diction. And the conversation was, I felt so small when I got up from there, but I was determined to have proper diction, right? So I've been told that, oh, you speak white. What does white sound like? What does Black sound like? Just told that I'm not Black. And it left me with a sense of feeling like I don't have a people. I don't have a people to connect to. I was told as a little girl that I didn't have my father because his family wouldn't accept no nigga babies. That did something to me. I then in turn didn't like the white folks that, I believed would never accept me. And then I didn't have the Black folks who would push me away. So I grew up feeling very lonely, isolated, as if I had no one but myself. And for the life of me, I can't shake that feeling of disconnectedness. I try to connect on many different levels and many different social settings. However, there's this perpetual feeling of disconnectedness when it comes to that. And that's just the area I still have to heal from.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you speak on some deep issues that are not often neglected in this discussion when we're talking about racism, and that's why I felt it was important to even to touch on that. I mean, W.E. Du Bois spoke about this in The Souls of Black Folks when he spoke about double consciousness, and what Black folks, a lot of Black folks, what we had to do is we look at ourselves through the eyes of white America and also of Black America. So how do white people perceive us and how do Black people perceive us, and adjusting our behavior in different contexts and to a certain extent our identity based on these multiple perceptions, and just to
how we believe will be accepted.
Exactly, accepted by white people and accepted by Black people, right? Because you're moving in two different worlds: the America as we know it, and then the immediate community. And the immediate community, you find you're connected to just based on part of your appearance, right?
Yes,
I faced similar, at least that with my stepdad was white, and so my siblings were white. And so I felt I got scrutiny for, I'm not authentically Black enough. And part of my response to that was when I became essentially a gangster, Black people didn't challenge my identity whatsoever. And then whatever white people thought about me, who cares? I'm a gangster now. Like I don't need to care how white people look at me, right? And so I definitely understand. I definitely could relate to the colorism, and I feel like we share a certain experience in that, but also yours is again unique, just when we're basing on this intersectionality. When you're a woman, right? And so your experience is going to be a little bit more different.
Yes, it's something that I always say too when I'm in having conversations when a topic or a situation like this comes up. I say the symptoms are the same, but the facts are different, right? So many of us are struggling with the same symptoms. We have a different set of facts. We all have a different set of experiences, right? And if we could just keep that in mind. And this is something that I had to learn within myself, that I have to remember that the person that I'm looking at in front of me, their DNA is 99.9% identical to my DNA. And I have to stop myself and say, why am I looking at their appearance? Why am I judging this person based off their lifestyle? Yes, in my religion, it says use your discernment. Use discernment on your interactions. Yet and still, I have been guilty of judging people and not wanting to be next to people because I'm judging what they look like. The same things that have happened to me, I have also done to other people. So yeah, the symptoms are the same, but the facts are different.
You mentioned something that kind of brought some other thoughts too, when you talked about you mentioned your religion, your spiritual faith. I remember speaking to you previously, and you mentioned there was a certain shame from the religious aspect of it before you, and then I know you came back into a faith. So I wonder what that your relationship through religion, that shame component of it, then also how I guess it's part of your identity now as well. So I wonder if you can elaborate on that a little bit.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'd love to. I got baptized. I was very young in the foster home. And I was told that when I come out of this water, I need to be speaking in tongues or I won't make it into the gates of heaven. So they dip me in the water and other people are getting baptized at the same time. And these people come out of the water talking in tongues. And I'm like, oh, no, as a child, I'm so scared to open my mouth because I knew I didn't even know Spanish. So I popped out of the water. I'm looking around. I don't know what else to say other than ooh-ee, ooh-ah, ting, tang, walla, walla, bing, bang. Ooh-ee. And the lady looked at me who baptized me. She was so repulsed by what I said. So I started singing it harder and splashing and going crazy in this water because I needed her to understand that I fit in. But needless to say, I was banned from coming back to that church. I wasn't able to come back to that church. And for me, that's just one of the many things, the way that people teach religion, the way that religion is taught, it's taught in a way that further segregates us. Right? It places us in different boxes, and religion told me my value as a woman, and people used religion to tell me my value as a woman. Well, it goes back to the story about even Adam and Eve, how they say Eve ate the apple. Now we all suffering from menstrual and period cramps and childbirth, and she deceived Adam and things of that nature. But the pivotal part that they leave out of this story, and this is what I didn't understand, but I had to understand in order to learn my value. And in my Bible, it says when God created the heaven and the earth, right, he made everything perfect, and he made man and he gave everything to man, and man had dominion over everything, and it was a perfect world. But how do you add to perfection? And how do you add to perfection? You add woman to the situation. And see, when that message was preached into me, I was given life through that message right there. I stopped seeing myself as not good enough. I stopped seeing myself as burdensome, and then even further, my life got prophesied into, and just certain doubts that I had in my heart about who I was, down to sexual partners. I was told in religion that, I forgot exactly where, but I remember reading or hearing that at 12, you're responsible for your own sins. Well, I started getting sex trafficked at 11 years old, and these grown men were having sex with me, and I was a child. A woman sold me, and I was a child. She sex trafficked me. I blamed myself because I had ran away from group homes and foster homes. Why didn't I run away from that? How could I sit and stay frozen? And I didn't understand. I saw myself as dirty. I saw myself as not valuable, not good enough. And I saw myself as a sinner. It wasn't until a few years ago that I began to see myself differently. I began to have a connection with my higher power. And over the last year, as of recently, over the last year, my connection with my higher power has just grown so much stronger, because now I'm not seeing my higher power as a menacing father figure who's not going to accept me, who's going to abandon me, who's never going to forgive me. I'm able to get out of that idea of what my higher power is. And I'm seeing my higher power as an entity that's always present, that's always loving me, that's guiding me and protecting me. And so that's how religion has played a role for me in my shame and even my development as a woman today.
I mean, it's so powerful what you said. I'm not sure if you've been able to hear Yehuda's episode, but his episode was Healing Through Faith.
Yes, I heard.
Oh, yeah, which was super powerful. And I think about, I am an abolitionist. I don't believe in prison for men or women. And so the statement I'm going to make, I had to say that first. Prison is no place for a woman. Obviously, I don't believe it's a place for a man either, but it was built for men. And so everything that you are experiencing and everything that you're rising up to with your thunder inside is incredible. And I'm wondering if you can tell us about what has become your purpose in life while you are inside.
Yes, absolutely. So my purpose in life is that little girl that I was, that nobody stood up for. And many times, like I would tell my children, if I didn't have you, I wouldn't wake up today. I told my children they were my purpose. My family was my purpose, my career goal. But what happens when I'm in a cell all by myself and I don't have those children? I can't talk to them for 2-3 years at a time. And I haven't seen them for several years at a time. And I don't have career goals. And all I have left is myself and my higher power. Who do I get up and do it for? Right. And my purpose has become the little girl that I used to be, who didn't have a voice, who was misguided, who was rejected, who was abandoned, who was neglected, and who was abused. I'm going to stand up for her every single day. I'm going to speak up for her every single day. I'm going to fight for her every single day, because I know that there's so many other little Riannas out there that we don't even know about, that we haven't even begun to touch the tip of the iceberg with them yet. So yeah, that's my purpose.
It's such a beautiful purpose. And any child would be so fortunate to have you. And it's amazing because I keep thinking, a good friend of mine, Norma, it was a former lifer, and she was a parent. She was a mother inside. She actually went inside when she was pregnant, and her relationship, I mean, I just get goosebumps, like just thinking about it, but her relationship with her son was always beautiful while she was inside and when she came home. And I think about this one sentence that he says, he's in his 20s now. So he will say, she asked him like, oh, are you going to be able to take time off for Mother's Day? This was, this was a while ago. And he said, yeah, Mom, they know our story. And I just melted with our story. He could have easily have said your story, it was never about her. He and she are so in love. And I just always love that relationship. And I always think of them as having one of the most beautiful, attuned relationships. And she was on the inside parenting. So I'm wondering what it's like for you as a mom inside.
Yeah. I just want to praise God for that story. That's so awesome that he was able to say they know our story. I want to touch on that really quick. That's such a powerful statement. That's so freeing for him and her as well. My children haven't received that type of freedom yet. They are not able to talk about where I am. They still feel ashamed of my choices, how things ended up, how their life ended up as a result of my poor choices. So I think, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. Just because I know what it's like to be ashamed of my mother. I was ashamed of my mother and the experiences that she had. So I understand how they could feel ashamed of, my choices. But to answer the question, what it's been like to parent from here, it's been incredibly difficult. When I first came to jail, when I first got arrested, I didn't really get to talk to my children for at least the first 2 years. And I didn't see them until I had been gone for 3 years. My baby was 2 when I left. And I asked his dad, I said, do you think that he forgot me? And his dad was like, probably so. And I was just like, oh my God, how cold of you, lied to me at least. But God is good. And when my baby walked in with his little curly afro, he looked up at me and threw his arms up and he said, Mommy, where have you been? As if nothing had changed. And that was such a blessing to me to know that the love that I had given them, child of my womb, flesh of my flesh, child of my body, seed of my womb, right? That bond will never be broken. And so I consistently pray for my children. Sometimes I might send a piece of paper with just the words, I love you on it, because I don't know what else more to say. I know that there was one point where I was searching for them to be angry with me. I would say, are you mad at mommy? It's okay if you're mad at me. You can get it out. You can tell me how you feel. And they'd say, no, we're not angry with you. We just want you to be okay. And we want you to come home. Again, I repeatedly. I did this to them. Are you mad at mommy? No, we're not mad at you. And the answer was always the same from them. And I had a huge aha moment the last time I had asked them that. It was like the Spirit of the Lord hit my spirit and told me, stop searching for rejection in your own children. I was so used to rejection. I knew what to do with pain and hurt and suffering, right? But I didn't know what to do with just genuine, authentic love that children give. And once I realized that, I stopped searching for the rejection in my children. I stopped searching for the hate in my children. People who aren't capable of hating, right? I believe that children have such an innocence about them that they're not even capable of harboring those resentments at that age. So yeah, it's been incredibly difficult, but God always makes a way for me to be able to be a mother.
Oh my gosh. Everything you say gives me goosebumps also. And I think you're going to impact so many women who feel shackled, whether they're inside or outside, in terms of, looking for that rejection, which I know I can definitely relate to for sure. My history is intimate partner violence. So being shackled, whether you're out or you're in, and looking for that rejection because it's familiar. That's what we know.
Yes.
And then changing that narrative, which is super brave and courageous. And I feel like you're just super inspirational for so many women inside and out, to be honest.
Thank you. And I also have had I appreciate that. I also have had my experience with intimate partner violence. And I facilitated several classes, domestic violence classes, just to bring awareness to that issue and to help women understand that they're not alone. Share my story and let them know that they're not alone. And yes, so I appreciate. I read a little bit about the work that you do with that, and I appreciate the work that you do with that, and I appreciate the work that you and Yehuda are doing here. I think it's very important to do when we have more conversation when we begin to normalize having conversations about shame, having conversations about the abuse that suffered, or those multi-generational curses that get passed down. Once we begin to normalize the conversation, people start opening up and get into a place where they're able to tell their truth, to tell on their shame, to tell on their past experiences, to tell on their guilt, and to do something about it. And move forward.
Thank you. I mean, I think that's what, Trauma Informed LA and these podcasts are about. It's about people telling their stories, and, and everybody's narrative of what they've been through can be a path to redemption, right? And it's that truth in it. So I see that truth aspect of being able to tell one story connected to exactly what you found your redemption through, or you found the pivotal way to turn your life around, was through that truth and understanding that you don't have to live in shame. I think you touch on a lot. And you know what? I have another question I want to go into, but if you can briefly talk about it, just so I have a better understanding, because I know from my experience being in prison how we related to correctional officers, but there's a different power dynamic when you're thinking about women being incarcerated, especially by, other male prison guards. So I wonder how your experience has been, or with, dealing with correctional officers, or how is women's experience, to your knowledge, about the dynamic between y'all and correctional officers?
Yes. So it's been very challenging. And it's interesting that you bring up this question right after we talked about, right after Susie spoke about intimate partner abuse. And the way that I see this, the CEOs, it feels as if I'm in an abusive relationship. It feels as if I'm in an abusive relationship, because these are the people that come, they oversee our housing units. Like right now, we have an officer who's working, who comes in, and some people still are in their addictions. And he says, all right, I don't want any shit out of you dope fiend bitches today. Like, this is a place where I'm supposed to get rehabilitation, where I'm supposed to find healing, where I'm supposed to get help. And you're coming in with this abusive language, where it's a perpetual, endless cycle of abuse on the inside, as well as from where we came from, the perpetual cycle of abuse from where we came from. And we come in here to also be abused by guards. Since November, I've been sexually assaulted twice. And the first time I launched a grievance, and they had the man who sexually assaulted me, they had his own supervisor conduct the investigation, and she swept it under the rug, and they'd given this man a promotion. And then shortly after, I just experienced a male officer staring at me through the window while I'm naked getting dressed from the shower. And there were at least 4 other women who were, and I lost my top. All the little marbles in my head fell straight out, and I went off. I started screaming. The sergeant took me in. They reported it as a sexual staff misconduct. But the same person who swept the first investigation under the rug was supposed to come out and ask me questions, and she's never shown up thus far. So it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge. It's so hard to maintain the court, to stay the course, and to continue to walk into my light and my greatness when I'm re-traumatized, when I'm put into situations of abuse again. And this is called the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, right? But this is the thing. When I hear re before any word, it means to do over. In my mind, it means to do over, to do again, rehabilitation. So that gives us an indication that it has already been done, right? Many of us, how could we never had a healthy relationship with society to start with. So how could we be retrained in having a healthy relationship with society, right? And especially under these conditions where many of us are abused, we're told to heal, but then we're abused, we're ignored, we're silenced. They're tyrants. Many of them are tyrants. And then on the flip side, I've had so many. There was a captain here when I was in college, and he stopped to help me with my math homework because I didn't understand what I was doing. He stopped to help me with my math homework. He stopped another time to help me with, I didn't understand I had an English class, and I didn't understand I forgot what the question was, but I didn't understand it. And he stopped everything he was doing. There was an alarm on the yard to break down what the question was asking of me. So just like there's bad apples, there's so many gems and jewels in here.
I mean, yeah, you make some salient points. One, I think it's the Stanford prison experiment.
Yes,
okay.
That's exactly what it is.
So, I mean, it doesn't matter who you put in a position to have some sort of power or authority over other human beings, and in a position where they feel like they're just in their oppression, right? They have a job that they're designed to be an oppressor, right? It's a legal job to be an oppressor, and they feel justified in being that oppressor. So abuse is, easily happens because that's just the nature of the human condition when given such power, absolute power. The saying goes, I'll probably say it on every episode concerning incarceration: power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you have people who maybe they've been through their own trauma. Maybe they haven't dealt with the things going on in their own personal life. Maybe they're not seeing therapists. Maybe they're not processing and have the ability to have the time to have the insight and wisdom that you've been forced to kind of confront the way you have because of your circumstances. And they take it out on the woman, the weakest people that they have control over in this particular environment. And I also like to add to this, though. You and I both that rehabilitation that they added to the end of the CDCR, was this California Department of Corrections. They threw in that extra R, and they got a lot of pushback too from other correctional officers about throwing in that R. And you touch on another thing about rehabilitated. Many people think that if you've never been rehabilitated, period, if you never knew what it meant to live, simply taking away antisocial behaviors doesn't necessarily allow you or doesn't necessarily tell you how to live a life that is productive, conducive to growth. At
all. And of all the classes and all the therapy that I received, the knowledge that I got that's going to help me be most successful to further my success at home, the meat and potatoes of my knowledge I've obtained it on a contraband cell phone. Like, they're not teaching us about our credit. They're not teaching us financial literacy. We don't know how to clean up our credits. There's no classes that are teaching us that. There's no classes that are showing us how to open a bank account. Our parents didn't know these things about savings and pensions and IRAs and 401ks and things of that nature. They're not teaching us the importance of life insurance and health insurance. No, it's behavioral therapy basically, but anything else to be able to contend efficiently in an economical from an economical position, we don't have that. They're not giving that to us. So how do you expect someone not to reoffend? How do you expect to rehabilitate or even to habilitate a person if you're not going to give them all the tools that they need in order to contend fairly in society?
Yeah, you just, again, you speak with such insight into this. And kind of just to emphasize your point, in my job, I mean, we're dealing with, I believe the kid is like 21 years old or something like that. And he was given a gift card in an envelope, in a sealed envelope. And he did not know how to open the envelope. He didn't know how to envelope. He's never had to open an envelope. He didn't,
Wow.
You just tear it open, or what do you do, right?
Oh.
And it's kind of hard to even predict in what ways people haven't learned to live in a way in society that's going to be conducive to being successful, right? And these little things like that, but you can imagine how so much things cause anxiety for people in ways that a lot of self-help programs or carceral systems or even reentry programs don't necessarily know how to anticipate, because everybody's level of being able to operate in society can be different. There's not like a universal, you grew up in poverty, so therefore this, and this, you don't know, right?
Yes.
It's so different for so many different people, and it's kind of hard to predict in that. So kind of bouncing off that though, and speaking to the, on a wider level, because we touched on a whole bunch of different things. We talked about systems. We talked about life of poverty and different traumas one faces. How do you see community healing, right? Community healing as political?
So how do I see community healing as political? It's been the policies that have held so many people back, right? It's been the policymakers who make these policies that hold a lot of people back, like, check this out. After incarceration, how many people really have meaningful reentry, right? There's policy where you can be fired, or you can't have jobs, certain type of jobs, if you've been incarcerated. It's called perpetual punishment, right? Our communities, poor communities, urban communities, we're over-policed. They're over-policing our communities, right? And they're targeting many of our families, breaking down the family structure to where there's not two parents taking care of children anymore. There's one parent struggling. So I think it comes down to policies. Like, we lose our right to vote. We lose our right to vote after being incarcerated. These are policies. These are political matters and problems. There's so many hidden gems inside of jails and prisons. There's so many hidden gems who are going to be released, and they're not going to have as many meaningful opportunities as they should have because they've made a poor choice and they've gotten caught for it. But how many people haven't been caught for that poor choice? How many people haven't been caught for the same poor choices, or they just got a slap on the wrist because policy allowed a loophole for them to get through? Right?
Yeah, you touched, as you have been doing it, right, with your wonderful insight into things from the belly of the beast, and being able to have that such insight. This even touching on the politics, right, with people not having the right to vote. Fortunately, in California, you can be a parolee and have the right to vote. But there's so many things that people don't even touch on, right?
Oh, let me tell you about, there's a new Senate bill, I think it's Senate Bill 132. You'll have to look it up, but it's allowing trans male to female and non-binary inmates to come to women's prisons, right? So now they're housing without regards to what these people are in prison for. Right now we have a male here, a trans male to female. This person is no longer taking their estrogen. They're no longer on their hormone therapy. They've been placed in an honor dorm where they're bullying women. And this person raped and killed a woman and her daughter. So these are policies that really forget about the people who don't really have a voice, who aren't able to stand up for themselves, who America isn't really pushing for. These are policies doing this to us.
Yeah. And I always wanted a woman's perspective of that, because I think a lot of times when you're balancing the ways to fight against discrimination and allowing people a lot more freedom to live their lives as they choose fit, you also have to thread the needle and be careful that you're not somehow endangering the rights or the situation or the well-being of others. And I understand that, again, as women being in a particularly vulnerable position, especially a position like that, yeah, I understand. And not only that, not only whether there's actually something happening, but just the mere fact that now there's a threat of something happening and you're already incarcerated, feeling vulnerable. I could just imagine. And that's a whole Pandora's box you spoke on.
Yes.
But again, whether I have something to speak on it or not specifically, I believe you do as a woman being incarcerated. And not only that, your opinion matters much more than a lot of these pundits. And I will touch on this too as well when you talk about the perpetual punishment and like rights to vote and all that. I don't believe any political party truly believes in the full redemption of somebody who's formerly incarcerated. And I ask you this, right? People always talk about the right to vote. 8 out of 10 people who are incarcerated will vote for a particular political party. So there may be reasons for that right to vote. Does anybody talk about that we should have our full rights to the Second Amendment anymore? Have you ever heard of that?
No.
And there's a reason. There got to be a reason why people claim that we matter and that we're trying to, second chance and all that, but they truly don't believe that. Name me one political party or one political candidate that argues for the Second Right amendments to be returned to somebody who's formerly incarcerated. Even if you get a pardon, you still won't get that right back.
You know why? Because we're not the minority after all. And that's what it boils down to. We're not the minority after all.
Yeah, I think there's so much fear because now you're not the minority, you're the majority.
Yes.
I'm wondering, there's so many things because you're so deep with everything. I feel like I can go down so many roads for like hours, but how do you see truth as community healing? Because number one, it's super brave, obviously, to be vulnerable.
Yes.
And, I can imagine with so much going on inside with the pandemic, being a woman and telling your truth and being super, super vulnerable, which, vulnerability breeds connection. So that's why I keep saying everything you're saying is super inspiring, for so many women in and out. But I'm wondering, how you see truth as healing, as community healing.
The way that I see truth as community healing, I think the truth, there's that old saying, tell the truth and the truth will set you free. Tell the truth. And I didn't understand that concept until the truth was able to set me free. And what needs to happen is, in order for a community to heal individually, we need to heal. People need to heal themselves on an individual level and be honest with themselves about who they are, how they became the way that they are, how they felt about the things that they experienced. There's an exercise that I do in my classes that I made up, and I do a 4-square exercise. And the first square is for shorter purposes in class, I just have them list one way that their boundaries were crossed as a child. And then in the next square, I want them to write down the beliefs, the thoughts and beliefs and the feelings that they developed as a result of that boundary being crossed. Then the third box, I want them to write down what characteristics developed in you as a result. And then the fourth box, I want them to write down, now, how have you used those characteristics to then cross the boundaries of other people? That's how we get to the truth. As individuals, we need to get to the truth on our own, because when I am a healthy piece, I can add to a puzzle. I can add to a picture. So that's how I see the truth being community healing and community.
Oh my gosh. I mean, again, when I love just the power of being part of a puzzle, right? And I keep thinking too, so I teach at USC, and I've been talking to my class about the importance of an Afrocentric lens, that it's about community, it's about collective, and a Eurocentric lens is focused on the individual, and we're siloed. And so, I appreciate just your lens on being part of a puzzle. I
want to ask just a question, because we asked Keon about this from the male's perspective, and I'm wondering, how has the COVID-19 pandemic been while incarcerated? How's that experience been from you? Has it caused you to radically imagine in ways that you have not before? How's the situation in there in prison right now during the pandemic this past year?
Okay, and that's a loaded question. So I hear two parts of the question. How has it been, and how has it caused me to radically imagine in ways that I haven't before, right? So the first part is it has been a shit show. I remember I was the first person to catch COVID in the institution, lived across the hall from me, a couple doors down. They took her away to quarantine her, but they let her roommate come back. When they opened up that room, it was like a free fall for the extra linen and the bedding and things of that nature. Mind you, I don't have an immune system. I have lupus, and I take a medication that removes my immune system. So just from that room being opened up and this linen just being breezed through the air, I end up getting a stomach ache and a runny nose. I go to the doctor and I let her know that I'm having digestive problems and I have a runny nose. And she told me I was fine, that I had some form of virus, but it wasn't COVID. It turned out to be COVID, and I got 2/3 of my unit sick with COVID. We ended up getting quarantined. They put us in just squalid conditions. The rooms they moved us into, there were bugs everywhere. I was killing flies till about 1 a.m. They didn't give us any cleaning supplies. It was just dirty and terrible. But we were emailing our family members. And advocates. So when the prison started getting backlash about us doing that, they moved us to a section of the prison where we had no communication at all. We weren't able to email. There was no communication. We didn't come out of our cells for 5 days. I didn't have a shower. I didn't have running water in my sink. I was so thirsty. I remember being so thirsty. I would catch the cup. I would set the cup on the side of the faucet, trying to catch a little water to wash my hands or clean my body and have something to drink. Filling that cup up took forever though. But I remember during that time, a young lady that I was friends with, she set herself on fire trying to kill herself. And the guards left us locked in. And I'm beating on the door and I'm throwing my body against the door and I'm screaming, in the name of Jesus, please don't let us die in here. Please come help us. Finally, they come down, they open the doors. When I got outside of that cell, I put my hand in front of my face. that I couldn't even see my hand. That's how much smoke there was. I ran outside looking for two of my best friends who were also quarantined as well, and they weren't out there. So I run back in this burning building looking for my friends, and they're still locked in. They left two people in a cell. So that's pretty much how, COVID has been here. It's been terrible. We're undergoing mental health services have dwindled down so much. There's absolute almost non-existent. They're not addressing any other medical needs other than like COVID needs. So a lot of things are just going overlooked and bypassed, and we're experiencing more trauma and more devastation as a result of that. And then to answer the other part of the question, how has the pandemic caused me to imagine in radical new ways? So it's caused me to think about, what if, let's say I'm at home and I don't have soap and no stores are open. What, am I not just going to have soap, right? It's making me understand, it's helping me understand how self-sufficient we aren't as a people, how much we rely on stores for toilet paper and produce and things of that nature. So now I'm making plans to, I want to purchase land. I want to build a yurt. I want to cultivate the land. I want to start growing food. I want to get some solar panels. So I'm thinking along those terms. And I also want to teach that as well.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I want to live near you when you come home.
I want a yurt. I'm getting my yurt.
So I'm wondering if listeners wanted to get involved by supporting women who are currently inside, how could they support women? What would you recommend?
Yes. So, honestly, that's a tough question, because I have not had many experiences with people wanting to support us on the inside. When men are incarcerated, it's interesting. When men are incarcerated, their visiting rooms are so full to the point where they have to turn visitors away. Families move to be closer to where their male loved one is incarcerated. But women, our visiting rooms are never full. And there's many of us don't get visits. So I haven't really experienced the outside support. So I would like to know. I would like to know where women who are seeking support, where they would go to. I know there's a few organizations such as Second Call, ARC, the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, Alternatives to Violence, TLM. Those are some organizations that they help, but it's very specific. It's very specific and targeted towards a certain area. I think that we need a broader range of services.
Yes. My friend who I was telling you about, who went in when she was pregnant and her son said, it's our story. Yeah. She actually works at ARC.
Oh, she does?
She does. And she...
Norma!
Yes. Wait.
I know Norma. You said Norma and it just clicked. I know exactly who Norma is. Awesome.
This is so funny because I was texting with her tonight and I said, I'm so looking forward to interviewing a woman who's currently inside. And she texted me back, but I haven't time to look because the interview started. But you know Norma?
Yes, I know Norma. Norma's been coming in. Norma comes in here. I absolutely adore Norma. Norma's so dope. And you work with someone. You work with someone who used to come in here, Skip.
Skip. Wait, I know Skip.
Yes, that's my friend, Skip.
What?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love Skip. So Skip is a new friend of mine, and Norma is a friend of mine for like 10 years since she came home. But I love both of them.
Yeah, Skip is so amazing. I took all of Skip's classes, and I think my best friend Genevieve and I were his biggest headaches. It was, we cross-talked, we giggled, we didn't take anything seriously. But in his classes, those were the seeds that were planted, right? And it just took time for them to be watered. But he diligently planted and cultivated the ground that I was in, the soil that I was in, right? He cultivated that soil. And many of his lessons stick with me today. even down to the point where I take accountability when I speak. I use so many I statements. I'm not like, I don't say, well, when you go to the store. No, when I go to the store, this is how I feel. I feel free, right? So I've learned so much from Skip. So yeah, there's organizations like that have been instrumental in my healing, in my journey, and me figuring out who I am as a person and understanding that my worth, that I'm not my mistake. I'm not what happened to me.
That's right. So, well, the last question is, I'm wondering what it's been like to tell your story today, because you were saying at the beginning, this was the first time of really telling your story to like the public, besides, maybe a small group or maybe a therapist. So I'm wondering what it was like today.
Oh man, it felt so awesome. It's been amazing. You've been so welcoming and so kind. Yehuda's very easy to speak to as well. So it's been. I think it's easier when I'm talking to someone who can relate to me. It's easier, and the fact that you've both been able to relate to the things that my story that I've told and even expressed. You've seen my light, right? You've experienced my light from just me speaking. It feels awesome, and it's super encouraging. It encourages me to continue to tell my story, right? So yeah, it's been great.
I am so grateful, one, that Yehuda, that you introduced me to Rianne. And Rianne, you do have such a core of light. And when you first came on, that's what your voice was. It was a core of light, and it was kind. Wow. And yeah, I mean, your truth, I think, is super liberating for many women. I'm sure men too, but I'm just thinking of a lot of women inside and outside, that your story is super liberating and inspiring. And yeah, I want to keep our connection going even after the podcast.
Yes, I'd love to. I'm so nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again, Rianne, for coming in and sharing your truth with us and to all the people listening. I think you have an important story to tell that is not just relevant to your situation, but is relevant to not just many other women, but it's relevant to society as a whole.
Yes.
So thank you so much for sharing your truth and being able to do that from inside the confines of the belly of the beast. Is liberating in a certain extent to so many systems of oppression that are working to keep voices silenced. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you again for having me. God bless you.
We'd like to thank our listeners, and special thanks to Arts in Action, part of USC Visions and Voices, the Arts and Humanities Initiative, for their generous support. Arts in Action, part of USC Visions and Voices, plants seeds for positive social change by activating intensive art projects between community partners, students, and faculty. Today's episode is written and produced by Susie Hess and Yehuda Price. Today's music is co-written and produced by Yehuda Price, utilizing a contraband cell phone while in prison. Our Stories Matter is brought to you by Trauma Informed LA. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Our Stories Matter, and our website at traumainformedla.org. Please give us 5 stars on iTunes so more folks can have access and donate to traumainformedla.org so we can keep recording and healing through our storytelling episodes.
Life is the life we live. Modern day slavery pursuing cheddar. Life is the life we live. Whips and chains trying to duck the 12th letter.
Mamas tell us be good, obey master. Don't be like daddy all in the hood, okay, bastard. But what they plan